Texas, Oklahoma will meet up at the Texas State Fair. Texas is a 14.5 point favorite in this rivalry matchup that is renewed as an SEC showdown. Over under set at 51.5 for this one. What I would do to be at the Texas State Fair this weekend, Mason. I've heard that this is one of the best college football atmospheres that you can attend, and I one day we'll be there. We will go check it out at some point. I might be an old, you know, I might be walking in there with a walker or something, but I'm gonna go check it out one day. This is one of the few neutral site games that I'm a big fan of. Not a huge neutral site guy, but really like this one. Texas beat Michigan earlier in the season, and that's really all that we have to go off of with Texas at this point. Not a ton of big victories that we can point at and say, see, that's why Texas is number one. So even though Texas is the number one team in this matchup, I feel like Texas certainly has something to prove. And Oklahoma, on the other hand, is christening a new offense and a new quarterback. So what can Hawkins bring to the table as a freshman in this big-time rivalry matchup? Oklahoma has got the best defense that Texas has faced this season. And I don't think there's really any doubt about that. But the biggest question or concern in this football game is if Oklahoma's offense is going to be able to sustain drives and keep Texas's offense off the field at all. That's the biggest question here. And I guess that kind of plays hand in hand with Texas's defense. Are they going to be able to get this Oklahoma team off of the field? It hasn't been a great offensive showing for Oklahoma. We're going to, kind of pull up some of the stats later this week on Tuesday. Whenever we break this game down here live on the channel, that's Tuesdays are always our preview and prediction show. Mason, what are you thinking about this one, man? Because this is a styles make fights type of football game right here. You've got the go-go offense there in Texas that is just absolutely loaded with skill position talent. Pretty good offensive line, I feel like. You talked about it earlier. The running backs for Texas are healthy at the moment. Not exactly a deep room, but they are healthy and they are effective. And nobody's really offensively been able to test Texas this season. I mean, their biggest game was Michigan, and Michigan doesn't believe in the forward pass anymore. So, with that being said, I mean, Texas was able to go out there and basically just sell out on the run every play. And, I mean, whenever you've got a team as good as Texas and they're able to sell out on one dimension of your offense, you're not going to win that football game. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So, there's an untested element in this football game, and it's Texas. Oklahoma has been more battle tested this season. There's zero doubt about that. After facing off with Tennessee, and in all honesty, had a chance to win that football game. Now that we watched Tennessee lose to Arkansas this past week, Oklahoma's path to victory would have been the exact same as what Arkansas's was. The games looked almost identical. So we could have just as easily been talking about Oklahoma being the one with the win over Tennessee right now. What do you think about this matchup? It's two different styles going at it here in a big-time rivalry game.
Yeah, definitely two different styles. When I look at the Texas offense, this is a pass-first offense, obviously. They're depleted in the running back room. They're without their two or three best running backs going in. I guess two of their three best running backs going into the season. They do have Blue still, and a freshman running back who's escaping me, Jarrett Gibson, I believe is his name. But nonetheless, they're depleted at running back. So they haven't been running the ball well. They're 43rd in the country in rushing yards per game. Oklahoma, on the other hand, just 30th in the country on rushing yards per game. Their defense, that is, which is a little bit surprising. I thought they'd be a little bit better than that. My eyes tell me that they're better rush defense than that. So, but my point in saying that is, Oklahoma is going to be able to stop the run here, right? Texas has got to find a way to manufacture passing yards, which they haven't struggled to do all season long. But
Yeah.
when you're not as concerned about the run game, if you're OU, you can drop back and play a little bit of pass defense, and play a little bit of cover three and whatnot on the back end. But when you look at OU's defense, particularly in the secondary, they've got Kenai Walker, who's got 6 pass deflections so far. He's kind of the lone defensive back that's really worth a whole lot, I think, right now. I think he's playing really good, but outside of him, probably not the best DB room. They're definitely better in their front seven. On their defensive line, they've got R. Mason Thomas, who looks incredible right now. He's got 6 tackles for a loss on the season, and of course Danny Stutzman, who might be the best linebacker in the country, leading the team with 40 tackles right now. So I do think that that's the matchup to watch: is the defense of Oklahoma versus Texas's offense. Is Texas getting Quinn Ewers back this week? I think that the answer is probably yes. If not, I do think that there is a little bit of a drop off between him and Arch Manning. Steve Sarkisian's systems are not very easy for quarterbacks to pick up. The fact that Quinn Ewers is in his 3rd year in this system gives him an advantage over Arch Manning. And I think that right now he just runs the offense better than Arch. As far as Texas's wide receivers, I mean, really Isaiah Bond is probably your go-to target, but they do have some others that that are pretty good at receiver. I like Bolden. I like Golden. I don't think that this is quite as good of a receiving bunch as Texas had last season, but Isaiah Bond's really, really good. He's 56 in the country, averaging 72.8 yards per game. Pretty sound there. And overall, I mean, it's definitely an above average receiving group for Texas, but without a running game, I don't know how this offense really operates. I mean, if Steve Sarkisian had it his way, he'd be able to run the football, and they're not really doing that right now. So maybe you give a slight edge to the Oklahoma defense in the matchups just because you're creating a one-dimensional Texas offense. I could see that being a little bit of a hamstring for this Texas offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. And obviously, in that offense, they're going to be trying to spread the field. I think that is certainly the strategy. If you're Texas, you got to try to spread Oklahoma out sideline to sideline, and that is Texas's expertise, no doubt about it. But I agree with you, Mason. I mean, I don't see where Texas is going to be able to run the football effectively in this football game, at least early on. At least early on. Maybe they're able to lean on this Oklahoma defense a little bit as the game goes on, but I'm not sure that that's what this offense is for Texas. I love the tackles there. I don't know. We'll talk more, in depth about the offensive line on Tuesday, I'm sure. But yeah, man, I don't see anybody, first of all, running the football super successfully on Oklahoma. Now, we have seen some teams have some success through the air this season. And it kind of begs the question for me, just like in the game that we just talked about, the Oregon-Ohio State game, I'm most interested to see, and probably will live bet on this game, I'm most interested to see how Oklahoma approaches this Texas offense. Are you going to be trying to get after that quarterback? Because I feel like in this situation, that might be what you need to do here. You might have to figure out a way to get some pressure, because I don't know that sticking everybody back in coverage is going to work out here in this situation. I mean, I don't know. I think Oklahoma's got to figure out a way to get Quinn Ewers off his spot. It's not some kind of hot take to say when Quinn Ewers is under pressure, he's not as good. That's every damn quarterback. That's the whole reason you create pressure. And Oklahoma's got to figure out a way to do that, because when you look at playmakers across the field, it's very obvious that Texas has the better playmakers. Here's another question for me. As far as Oklahoma offensively, do they get these wide receivers back and healthy? Is Nick Anderson going to be healthy for this football game? That's, this Oklahoma team hasn't been able to utilize their wide receivers like they should. And it's unfortunate because it's one of the It's actually the strength of this offense is the wide receiver unit, but they haven't been able to put them on display at all. And so, we talk about Texas being hamstrung by their run game. Oklahoma is hamstrung by their passing game. And if Oklahoma can figure out a way to hit an explosive play through the air in this football game, especially early, it's going to open a lot of things up for Oklahoma offensively, because what you're going to see early on in this football game is Texas is going to be crowding right down there around the line of scrimmage. I mean, why wouldn't you? If you're Texas in this football game, why wouldn't you dare this Oklahoma team to pass on you? They haven't done it all year. They haven't been able to do it all year. So that's the biggest thing for me is Texas is going to load up the line of scrimmage, and Oklahoma, I think, is probably going to do the opposite. They're probably going to try to back everybody up and generate some kind of pressure with bringing one extra guy, maybe. So I think both of these defenses are going to play each other completely different, and I'm really interested to see what the approach is as far as bringing a blitz, putting everybody back in coverage, and how these two teams play one another. I think is going to be really, really. I think it's going to be a really fun game. It's always a fun game. 14.5 points. I mean, I just, that's a lot of points. That is a ton of points. What do you think about this Oklahoma offense? Let's kind of talk about that for a second here. And I'm going to look up the point totals in these games over the last few years, because I want to see how many of them are 15 or more points between these two. Because every single season, it really over the last decade, if you really want to look at it, Oklahoma's been the one coming into this football game as the favorite every single time. Oklahoma's been the dominant team over the last 10 years.
Oh, so, yeah, absolutely. They're 7-3 in the last 10 years. I got the stats pulled up. Last year, they won 34-30. 22, Texas wins 49-0. In 21, OU 55-48. OU in 20, 53-45 in overtime. Texas, OU 34-27 and 19. OU 39-27. So I mean, yeah, all of these,
minus the one, yeah,
going literally all the way through the last 10. Outside of the one outlier with Texas winning in 22, they're all within 14 points. So yeah, I think you're onto something there.
This is a rivalry game, and this is college football. And as much as every team wants to fantasize about beating the ever-living stew out of their rival, been there, done that. I mean, Georgia could beat Florida 100-0 every year, and I would still say, but damn it, we missed that field goal. And that's just kind of my mentality, and I think a lot of fans' mentalities. But that's not the reality in this situation, and Texas is not 15 points better than Oklahoma at this point. I don't think. We're going to do some deeper digging and talk more about this game on Tuesday, but I just don't see it.